While everyone wants to make the incredible outplays and predicts that they see their favorite players and personalities making, that isn't actually how you get good at Pokemon, or any other game for that matter. Being great is often just about being able to replicate favorable situations for yourself consistently, and climbing with tactics that yield predictable and positive outcomes every single time. Well, the most important part of the game that you need to win is the early game. It goes without saying that trying to snowball a lead is infinitely easier than trying to claw your way back into a game. When you're playing stall, getting the early game right can be even more important because, let's face it, you're quite possibly going to be in that game for a while. If you screw up early on, you could spend the next 20 minutes trying to make up for that mistake. So in this guide, I'll be covering those crucial early turns and what you need to do when you're playing stall to consistently build leads in order to carry yourself to 1800 plus on the ladder. So the first thing that you're going to need to do when you're playing stall is identify the biggest threats to your team. You see, stall is all about winning by simply not losing. When you are playing stall, the pressure is not on you to make anything happen early. Instead, the early pressure is to ensure that your opponent cannot cripple one of your key defenders. To do this, you must identify who the key breakers on your opponent's team are. These are often setup or choice item mons, the mons that have the best chance at breaking your stall backbone. Then, you need to determine how you can prevent these mons from doing so. This is your number one goal in the early game, to preserve your key defenders. Now, if you have a good stall team, nothing should 6-0 your team by itself. But there may be mons that can 4-0 or 5-0 your team if they can just cripple a particular mon. Let's take a look at an example from the high ladder. So, this is a player called Anime Fan who ran this stall team a whole bunch, and looking at this setup right here, I want you to pause and ask yourself, who are the key breakers against this team? Who on Cortos' team has the best chance of breaking through the backbone of Anime Fan? Alright, so what I see right away, having played this team, this Urshifu Rapid Strike in rain can do a million if it can wear out this Toxapex and this Skarmory. In fact, even a little bit of chip on both, if both of them are at 70%, it can probably start to run through and break the backbone. The other big threat I see is this Excadrill. This Excadrill, in all reality, is probably a Rapid Spin, Swords Dance, Earthquake, Iron Head setup, something along those lines. If it can get going and our Quagsire gets chipped down to where it can no longer wall it with its unaware ability, and our Skarmory gets low, that Excadrill can start to run this team and really break our backbone. So, being aware of this, now we have to ask ourselves, how would we prevent Urshifu Rapid Strike and this Excadrill from breaking us? We need to keep Toxapex, Quagsire, and Skarmory healthy. These three mons are the most important mons that I see on this particular team in this matchup. Alright guys, now that we know what mons we need to be careful with, we need to come up with our plan for gaining an advantage in the early game. Remember, our goal is to build a consistent, predictable lead in the early game so that we can snowball our games into high win rates. Now, in just a second, I'm going to play this replay so that we can watch what Anime Fan did to do just this. But keep in mind, with every stall team, there are two things you're going to want to look for. The first is, what is your general long-term game plan? In this case, and in most cases, this is often something like hazards plus status, wearing your opponent out. The second thing you want to look for in the early game with any stall team is, what are the easiest Pokemon to wear out first on your opponent's team? So these are often things that don't have recovery or rely on recovery from leftovers, so think like Landorus or Heatran. Now, in this particular team, I can tell you, having watched Anime Fan's games, that the Clefable is Sticky Bar, but it doesn't have Trick. Frequently, this player relies on using Knockoff with Toxapex into Ferrothorn specifically, and then getting Clefable in, because with Magic Guard, the Ferrothorn has no way of recovering HP against the Clefable, and the only way it has to attack the Clefable is with physical moves like Knockoff or Iron Head. As a result, a common early game target for this team are Ferrothorn by removing their item and getting the Clefable in so we can get the Sticky Barb on the Ferrothorn. At that point, all Clefable has to do is click Soft Boiled and it will wear out that Ferrothorn doing absolutely nothing. Alright, let's go ahead and start this replay to see what Anime Fan did. So starting out the game, the opponent led Pelipper, which is not super surprising on a weather team. So Anime Fan went ahead and had Zapdos as the lead, which is a good start. Now, when the opponent swaps to Excadrill, Anime Fan clicks Toxic. This is because they're trying to establish the Toxic wear out condition on anything that comes in. In particular, Urshifu is scary and we want it to wear out, and so is Tyranitar. So they keep clicking Toxic, knowing that Excadrill probably can't do much against a Zapdos, but now that the Ferrothorn is in, Zapdos goes ahead and swaps out to the Toxapex. Remember what I told you about the Sticky Barb knockoff scenario. Now, almost all Ferrothorn are going to stay in on a Toxapex, because what's Toxapex going to do to me? So he knocks off the leftovers of this Ferrothorn, and has his Shed Shell knocked off in return. But because there's no Heatran in this game, that's really not as big a deal. Now, they do try to stay in and keep clicking knockoff in case something else wants to come in and give up their item. However, they then set up Leech Seed. This is the sign the Ferrothorn wants to stay. Here comes Clefable. However, you will notice Cortos does not stay in. They go, okay, never mind. I'm going to go to this Excadrill. And because they had Clefable into Excadrill, Zapdos is the correct response. That's what Anime Fan wants to do. Now, we have this exact same scenario, so this feels repeatable. And so they swap to Heat Wave, knowing that this Ferrothorn is an easy early target. Now that this has happened, though, they go ahead and Volt Switch out like before, going directly into their Clefable, knowing the Ferrothorn wants to recover. It wants to get a Leech Seed off so it can start to get HP back, but it can't into this Clefable. So Clefable sets up Rocks, which is the other part of the condition, and this Ferrothorn clicks Knockoff, picking up the Sticky Barb. Now guys, look at the state of the game at turn 10. This Ferrothorn is worn out, no leftovers, has the Sticky Barb, and cannot recover on Clefable because of the Magic Guard interaction with Leech Seed. What's more, Anime Fan's team is quite healthy. The only thing that has really taken any damage is Toxapex, which we got to be careful of because we don't want our Shifu Rapid Strike to get out of hand, but we have a full HP Skarmory chilling there, so we are not too worried about that yet. However, what do we have on the Anime Fan side? Ferrothorn is almost basically gone. I mean, this Ferrothorn's invalid at this point. This thing can never do anything else the rest of the game. It's too low, and it will not be able to recover. 2, we have Stealth Rock set up, which is one of the basic win conditions for this stall team. Now that we've got these set up, as we're swapping around, they're taking Chip, and we're slowly wearing things out like our Shifu and Tyranitar, who really don't have that much recovery. Now, a key note from this is because that Ferrothorn is worn out and basically dead the next time it comes in, Cortos is going to be forced to rely on bringing in the other Pokemon more frequently. Because we've got our Stealth Rocks up, that's perfect. That will help them wear out faster, and we still have our key Preserve Mons fully healthy so that we are not at threat of being broken at any given moment. But let's say you've gotten to this point. You've got yourself a favorable early game position just like this. You've worn out something, and now you got to figure out, what do I do next? It's still in the early stages, but I'm not sure what to transition to from here. Once you have your basic win conditions set up, and perhaps already crippled one of the key early target Mons, you will want to begin the pattern establishment phase of the early game. In a second, we'll jump right back into this Anime Fan game to show you what I mean, but first I want to emphasize that you really want to preserve the HP of all of your Pokemon during this phase. You're not trying to force any key plays unless it's to stop one of their win conditions from winning. For example, trading an unaware Pokemon for the setup Mon that it's there for. If they start trying to set up, yes, it's fine to trade in that spot because you have no choice. Let me say that again. If the next 10 to 20 turns have zero net change, that is fine. Your goal is not to build an advantage during the pattern recognition phase, but rather it's to determine, based on their patterns, who the next best target is. Note that this phase can be done simultaneously with step 2. It may be that during the pattern recognition, you identify how to bring in the easy target Mons that you want in. And if they happen to hand over an advantage to you, great, but don't try to force it. Patience is key to stall. Now let's take a look at this game one more time to see what this looks like. The goal of this phase is to determine what your opponent is relying on and come up with a plan to begin taking value again. Alright, so jumping back in, we've just chipped down this Ferrothorn. They go ahead and swap to the Excadrill, and Clefable clicks Moonblast because it's just trying to wear out the Ferrothorn. Makes sense. Then Anime goes back into Zapdos because that's the main Excadrill answer. We do see a Rapid Spin, which is not super surprising. That's pretty clear given this type of team. But Zapdos can always deal with this Excadrill, and we've already seen Quartos swap when this exact same scenario was presented before. So they Volt Switch to reposition. As a result, they get their Cresselia in, which is actually one of Anime Fan's primary mid-ground plays, and you're about to see why right here. Tyranitar comes in, and the Cresselia clicks Protect. It's a scout Pokemon. It can work in both scenarios, like in special defense or physical defense. So now that we've seen what they want to do, Anime Fan goes, obviously Cresselia can't stay in, but you know who can eat a crunch? Clefable. However, Quartos does make the aggressive play to Excadrill, so good move on their part. But then they go back into Tyranitar, while Anime Fan swaps into Quagsire to deal with the setup Excadrill. Now, this Quagsire is physically defensive, so sitting here, it can eat this crunch. And so Anime Fan has identified, hey, this Tyranitar, they keep going to it. They seem to want to rely on it to break my team, and I know I can eat the crunch. So, taking another crunch, now 52 is a little scary of a roll, but we do have recover and leftovers. So this Quagsire can definitely wall this, so it throws off a Scald, hoping for a burn, because that would be a huge wear out condition, and it would basically make this Tyranitar not that scary. Unfortunately, he doesn't get it, but he does get the chip on Tyranitar, and without leftovers, that Tyranitar is not getting that HP back. And this Quagsire really has no pressure to swap until the defense drop that you've just seen. So then Quartos, recognizing that they were very likely to swap, and very likely to swap into Clefable, goes back into Excadrill. They then double back into Tyranitar. Are you seeing a pattern? Quartos' plan for breaking Anime Fan clearly relies on this Tyranitar. This is like the 4th or 5th time that it's come in. And so now we're getting a feel for, okay, this is what they're planning to do to break me. They want to use Tyranitar and just spam Crunch, which is a powerful, heavy-hitting move. Now, they do get aggressive and double straight into the Excadrill, predicting the Clefable, I'm sure. But here, Anime Fan makes a key change based on the pattern they've determined. They go Skarmory, who does not lose immediately to the Excadrill, and they knew that in all the scenarios before where this Excadrill was in on this Clefable, the opponent, Quartos, doubled back to Tyranitar. Now Anime Fan has changed the pattern. They've taken advantage of, I'm quite confident you're going to Tyranitar, but even if you don't, I'm not going to lose anything by getting Skarmory in here. Even if you set up, I'm okay. We got Body Press, we can go straight into the healthy Quagsire, we're fine. And this changes things because now they have the opportunity to go for another wear out condition in Toxic. So now Anime Fan has just put Toxic on Quartos' Pelipper, creating a wear out condition for a new Mon. There's no Heal Bell on that team, so that Pelipper is toxic to stay. And so now there's a way for Anime Fan to start wearing out another Pokemon. And you'll notice that Anime Fan was very patient. They waited until this turn 26, to make this swap to their play, because you want to establish the rhythms and really get a feel for what your opponent's trying to do. Remember, Anime Fan has the advantage. They've already worn out the Ferrothorn and haven't lost anything on their own side. There's no pressure to make something happen. So get a feel, pick up some pattern recognition, and then figure out, how do I abuse this pattern to build an advantage? You guys, if you apply these 3 steps correctly and consistently, then you should be accruing early leads in all of your stall games. Now, while it is much easier to win from these advantageous positions, the next phase of the game, the mid game, is crucial to actually gaining the points. So if you want to learn how to snowball your early game leads, then either click the video on the right, or if it's not out yet, be on the lookout for what's coming on my channel this Tuesday. It's also crucial that you have a good team if you want to climb though. So if you want to learn how to team build the easy way, check out the video on the left. Alright guys, my name is Jack, stage name Ninjack, and I will see y'all stalling on the ladder.